Clearly, in a bid to woo voters ahead of 2019, the Modi government has cleared proposal to grant 10% reservation for the economically weaker sections in the general category. A day after clearing the proposal, it still remains to be seen whether the Modi government will be able to table the bill in Parliament. Sources reveal that this masterstroke is aimed at regaining the drifting support of the upper caste, which will be religion neutral. The proposed reservation will be over and above the existing 50% reservation enjoyed by the scheduled castes, the scheduled tribes and the other backward classes, taking the total reservation to 60%. BJP, meanwhile, has issued a whip to all of its MPs to be present in the House.
The Narendra Modi government has virtually pulled out a rabbit out of the hat. It has cleared a proposal to give 10% quota to economically backward citizens of the country. The centre will move the bill in Parliament on Tuesday. With barely 3 months left for the general elections, the Modi government's move can be a game changer.
निर्णय बहुत ही बड़ा क्रांतिकारक है, ऐतिहासिक निर्णय है, हिस्टोरिकल निर्णय है, क्योंकि बहुत सालों से सवर्ण समाज में से मांग हो रही थी। सभी जातियां ये बोल रही थी कि भाई एससी, एसटी और ओबीसी को आरक्षण मिलता है, लेकिन हमारे समाज में भी इकोनॉमिकल बैकवर्ड क्लास की संख्या है।
सामान्य वर्ग के लोगों को इसकी आवश्यकता थी, जो पिछड़े हुए हैं। जो प्रधानमंत्री जी कहा करते हैं सबका साथ सबका विकास, केवल कहते नहीं है, करके आज उन्होंने दिखा दिया है। सामान्य वर्ग के लोग आज प्रसन्न हैं।
The opposition, however, is sceptical. It has questioned the timing of the government's decision.
Modi government has suddenly woken up to the woes of economically poor, facing imminent defeat in the 2019 elections and with 100 days to go for polls.
आरक्षण का प्रावधान बाबा साहब ने इसलिए किया था कि जो सदियों से जो वर्ण व्यवस्था जो कायम थी और जिस प्रकार से जो भेदभाव छुआछूत जो हुआ करता था, जहां एक बराबर के नजरिए से लोगों को एक अधिकार मिले, आर्थिक स्थिति सुधारने के लिए आरक्षण नहीं है।
The bill, if passed, will benefit people falling under the provisions of the law, which will include people earning less than 8 lakh rupees annually, those who own land less than 5 hectares, owners of residential house below 1,000 square feet, and residents owning plot below 200 yards in notified municipality. A similar attempt by the Narasimha Rao government in the 90s had fallen flat after the Supreme Court struck down the law. Parliament will now have to make key constitutional amendments to give the quota legal sanctity. However, the Supreme Court has capped the reservation at 49%.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's 11th hour move is dipped in political syrup. Which vote segment will come to the BJP due to it, social dynamics will decide. In 1990, when VP Singh unleashed Mandal report, parties which had opposed it suffered politically. Can the opposition oppose it, or will it simply scuttle it? In New Delhi, Rahul Srivastav for India Today.
And that's what we're going to be talking about. Will the Modi government be able to move the quota bill in the Lok Sabha? Because remember, the bill overshoots the Supreme Court's 50% cap on the quotas, taking it to 60%. The opposition to back quota bill in the House, will they be extending their support to this bill? And quota push with the eye on 2019 polls. That's what the opposition saying. They're questioning the timing of this bill. Will quota push stand legal scrutiny? Let me get in Gopal Agarwal, the national spokesperson for the BJP, and Manisha Priyam, political analyst. Let me come to you, Mr. Agarwal. A very good morning to my guests, first of all. So the Congress, they're crying foul. On expected lines, they're saying this is a political gimmick. They're questioning the timing of this bill. They're saying that this is clearly being done with an eye on the national elections. How do you respond?
No, I would like to just say that Congress and opposition always questions on timing, intention. Why don't they talk on the basic concept of the this economically weaker sections of the upper caste, reservation for them? Are they in support of this or they oppose of it? The issue should be, is the bill or the way with this reservation for economically weaker sections of the upper caste, is it good or bad? But first decide that, then you can talk and question the timing, you can question the intention, how it will be implemented. It is for us to decide. First, let us conclude that this is a good thing or not. If you conclude that, then you can ask what is the timing. For that, I have to just say that you don't see this in isolation. You see over 4.5 years of our rule, Modi government's rule, you see our every scheme has been for the benefit of the weaker sections of the society, whether it is Ujjwala Yojana, whether it is Jan Dhan account, whether it is insurance for the poor, or Ayushman Bharat, or housing for the poor sections. All these have been focused on uplifting and benefiting the weaker sections of the society. And this is part of that whole process. So, and then a third thing I want to like to say is that do you want to say, anybody who is questioning its timing, that in the last 1 year or half a year of the government in the tenure, should it not do anything, just sit and just do nothing?
All right. So, Mr. Gopal Agarwal, you made your point, but Manisha, do we need more quotas? I mean, isn't the time come now that we need to do away with them instead of scrapping reservations? Successive governments go on to increase them through various amendments. Do you think that the focus really has shifted over the time from policy of upliftment to vote bank politics?
No, I think the real issue is the number of jobs, the size of the cake is the real issue. So what we can see is clearly the old politics under new labels. You know, you have the same cake and you keep saying that I'm going to slice it out like this. So this is basically a form of government intervention in saying that we can't do much about jobs, but what we can do is that we will now have the prerogative to tell you as to which social castes will have access or entry. So that's very important. Now, the second thing about timing, even though the esteemed co-panelists said timing is not of the essence, it's extremely of the essence. When the parliament is clearly in its very last session, how do you think this concept is going to be discussed? Had it been introduced mid-term with the government, early on in the government, this is a concept that could have been discussed, debated.
Yes.
The Supreme Court could have taken it on. He is aware, as much as others are aware, that every time you exceed the 50% cap, even if it is for established socially disadvantaged castes, the Supreme Court has its ways and it strikes it down very often.
Yes.
This time around, not only are you talking about socially disadvantaged castes, you are talking of a new category. Whether it is deserving or not, I do not know. But the fact is that that's extremely important to understand, that timing is extremely critical here. The third important point is that the government itself and many state governments have the socio-economic caste census, the results of which are not known publicly. So
but
all of this needs to be known,
Isn't this
and
in
all
a
of
sense
it
a
needs to be
violation
in a
of
public
the
debate.
of the reservation structure in our country, of the 50% ceiling that already exists?
There could be ways. It could be argued that that cap is for socially disadvantaged castes, and this time around they are talking of economics as the basis, economic basis. But the fact is that while economic basis is being taken, you are also bringing in the caste element by talking about economic backward amongst the upper caste.
Yes.
So there is this mix that is something that will go into legal scrutiny for sure. So at this point of time, the legislative intent is extremely weak. The judicial and the litigant will is far higher, and therefore the party concerned here wants to take it down to the wire and take it as a slogan to the elections. That's what it is. If this policy had to be implemented, it had to come earlier on, and it needed to go through both legislative and judicial scrutiny. And that's why timing is so important.
All right. National Affairs Editor Rahul Srivastav is also joining us on the broadcast. Rahul, good morning to you. So, the opposition calling it a political gimmick, saying this is a mere eyewash, but there are many others who feel that this perhaps could be a masterstroke just ahead of the big national elections. What is your assessment of the government's move? Because many also feel that this perhaps is, the BJP's way of trying to reach out to the voters after the recent drubbing of them losing their invincibility with the recent loss in the 3 heartland states. But your assessment, and do you see this bill getting through in Parliament that easily?
Avantika, this bill is all of what you are saying. It is definitely a steeped in
politics kind of a move by the government. And I think in contemporary politics, one should never be surprised that something like this is happening. Every political party, especially with the opposition parties coming together to forge a nationwide alliance against the BJP has come out with a move. If you cut across the entire spectrum of opposition leaders, not one voice opposing the move, only questioning the timing or the intent of the government. The very fact that the government has come out with a move against which there is not much opposition. Today, we are told by our sources now in the government that the bill is going to be moved for introduction and passing. The government is confident that in Lok Sabha it will be able to pass today, and we can tell our viewers now that there is a possibility that the parliament session may be extended by 1 day, maybe one more day, that it can be passed in the Rajya Sabha, where the government's number are not overwhelming. But given the fact that it is such a ticklish political issue that it is dealing with,
right,
one will have to wait and see whether opposition stalls it or opposes it. I doubt it, because when in 1990 the Mandal report implementation was opposed by political parties, every political party which opposed fell by the wayside,
right,
leading to the rise of the Lalu Prasad Yadav and Mulayam Singh Yadav. The government is confident that two amendments which it is bringing to say Article 15 and Article 16 pertaining to education and jobs are not within the limits of the 50% quota.
Okay.
What the government is saying, because that regards to social backwardness, SC, ST, OBC and others who are socially backward. This is a new category.
All right.
Article 15 Clause 4 and Article 16 Clause 4 both say that the government is empowered to carry out other exercises for the upliftment for people who are discriminated or deprived. And that is why the government feels that it is on sound legal ground to push for a legislation on this line.
Very interesting. Adil Singh from the Congress is also joining us on the broadcast. Sir, good morning to you. And what are your thoughts? What are the opposition's thoughts? Will you extend support to this bill? Because the BJP, they're taking away all the credit. They feel that, finally the long-standing demand has been met by their government. Their government are the one who have been so courageous enough to fulfill this long-standing demand.
Well, for us in the Congress party, we've always supported the upliftment of the economically weaker sections of society. And we will fully support any such measure, provided the reservation scheme for the SCs, STs and other backward classes is not altered in any manner whatsoever. This is point number one. Point number two, let's not forget that the timing is indeed under suspect. Mr. Modi, after 4 years in 10 months, 2 days before the Rajya Sabha, before the parliament session has to conclude, has floated this proposal. So certainly, I think it is incumbent on Mr. Modi to see it through. Now, thirdly, as pointed out by Mr. Srivastav, there is a legal challenge because the Supreme Court has been very categorical and has said that the ceiling limit cannot exceed 50%. Now, it is going to be incumbent on Mr. Modi and his party to demonstrate that there is quantifiable data which necessitates reservations beyond 50%. It does appear to be an insincere gesture. This appears to be another gimmick. Mr. Modi is the master of deceit. In the run-up to the 2014 elections, he promised the country 2 crore jobs. He promised 15 lakhs in every bank account. And now we all know after demonetization and GST, the Indian economy stands wrecked. Unemployment today stands at 7.3%. We've lost close to 1 crore jobs in the previous year. So therefore, this seems to be another method by Mr. Modi to deceive the voters. But I think this is a double-edged sword. If he's not able to sustain this legally, if this bill is not able to see the light of the day, I think there will be a backlash because the BJP tends to underestimate the intelligence and the enlightenment of the Indian voter.
No, but in spirit, does the Congress party extend their support to the quota bill? And would you support it if moved in Parliament?
Well, we support any measure to uplift the economically weaker sections of society.
So then why question the timing? But let's be mindful, there
are legal challenges. It is one thing to make an announcement and it's quite another to really see it through. No, the fact of the matter is you destroy the economy, you're not able to see it through, you bring it at the 11th hour, there are going to be legal challenges. Ultimately, promises have to translate into action. There is no point in proposing something and then getting it shot down by the Supreme Court. It has to be a full-fledged measure where it must be backed up by data. It can't be another SOP, it can't be another gimmick.
So, Mr. Gopal
Let's be
Agarwal,
very clear on this.
let me just bring him here now. How do you respond to that? That's what the opposition is saying. They're questioning the timing. They're calling it a poll SOP by the Modi government. They feel that, you know, this will probably be, be questioned by the Supreme Court. There's already a cap on reservations, 50%. This goes way above that, taking it to a total 60%. How do you respond to all of those allegations? In fact, most of the opposition parties are also saying, where are the jobs?
No, but I would like to say, when Mr. Rahul said, it is very clear that this kind of issue is already before the Supreme Court in the Gujarat High Court case. And what I also understand from other discussions and what Mr. Rahul also said, that the Article 15 and 16 does not restrict government from coming out with reservation or any policies for economically weaker sections of the society. This upliftment process has been done in other cases also. There are several other issues where government decides on some of the benefits for the specifically economically weaker sections of the society. So it is within the purview of the government to come out with a scheme for upliftment of the backward classes, economically weaker sections. And I also would like to say that Article 15 and 16 talk of equality, talks of equal opportunities. So there is, if you are you are establishing a mechanism under which you can create that opportunities, etc. So I don't think there is any option. And if the Congress says about the timing, why didn't they ask they were asking so many issues, they were opposing everything. They could have come out with a resolution, or they would have demanded an upper-caste reservation. So now the issue is, timing cannot be at the discussion.
All right,
the issue is,
go ahead.
Do we accept this as a principle or not?
Can I respond?
And how do we do it? We will come out with the strategy. If we are failing, people will know whether we are able to do it or not.
Agarwal.
Right, go ahead, Adil.
Mr. Agarwal, can I respond?
Yes.
Mr. Agarwal, you don't come out with a strategy. You don't come out with a strategy after the announcement is made. Any reservation policy must be backed up by homework. It must be backed up by a survey. It must be backed up by an exercise which collects quantifiable data. You can't make an announcement and then say that we are going to come out with a strategy. Please hear me out. Please, let's have a sensible discussion, Mr. Agarwal. Mr. Agarwal, please have some patience. You are demonstrating your ignorance today. Let's be very clear. The Supreme Court has pronounced in a series of cases that there is a ceiling limit. As far as the Congress party is concerned, we support it in principle. But we suspect Mr. Modi's motives. You can't make an announcement and then have it shot down by the Supreme Court. Then this way you deceive the voters of this country. You try to take them for a ride. This is what the Congress party is opposed to. And as Mr. Gadkari very candidly point out, where are the jobs? Where are the jobs, Mr. Agarwal? 24 lakh government jobs are still vacant. You're not able to fill those up and you're promising more.
If you had concentrated on creating jobs through your years of rule, then these problems would not have arisen.
You've been in power for the past 4.5 years.
Paralysis, corruption, leakages, all the looking only after one family.
First tell us, where are the 2 crore jobs that Mr. Modi promised?
You talk of what you have done in your rule.
This is, Mr. Agarwal, all this propaganda is way past its expiry date. This is not going to cut ice any longer.
If you are questioning, no, this is no propaganda. These are
India did not start in 2014, Mr. Agarwal.
You are questioning.
We were not on bullock carts before 2014.
Frequently asked questions.
We were not on bullock carts.
I just request you to kindly stay on. Let me get in Manisha here. Manisha, but the centre's quota for the economically weaker sections, wouldn't that also stand legal scrutiny?
No, absolutely. It's standing at the doorstep of the Supreme Court. So the fact of the matter is that every government needs to put through clean legislation, and when that legislation is being drafted, you need to assess legal issues as well, and then it's put to the floor of the parliament. Sometimes when you put such type of legislation knowing that it will get out of the parliament and go into the judiciary, you are in a sense diluting the powers that the parliament has over legislation itself. Remember, every democracy rests on a clear separation of powers.
Yes.
And this is with a clear intent to take it out of the parliament and into the judiciary. So these discussions could have been done at the draft stage, and that's not been done very clearly. It's come, really all of the actions of this government come at the stroke of the midnight hour, surprise here. And then you expect that nobody is going to ask you for timing. I'd like to ask the esteemed co-panelists also the question that why do you always go back to saying in history jobs were not created? In history this was not there. The fact of the matter is that over the course of the 4 years, many of the steps taken have led to dwindling even of the opportunities that existed in the informal market.
Right.
Now there is, as the runner of the government is the signal for macroeconomic imbalances that have occurred, and these lead to, you are aware that the Indian job market is unique. Over 90% of the job market is really not about formal jobs, it's about the informal market. You don't do any of those, and what is this quota about? It's about the small pie, that's the government sector of jobs. Even there I was told yesterday by youths that I was interacting with,
yes,
that this time the Union Public Service Commission has advertised just about 500 jobs for the civil services.
Okay.
And I remember that it used to be over 1,000 jobs. So this is just one example. If you look at state government by state government, you will find that there is a casualization. For example, the para-teacher issue in Jharkhand is something that's rocking the BJP government.
Right.
The jobs in higher education, there have been no recruitments in central universities. So the fact is, not only have you not expanded the pie, whatever existed, you shrunk it in various ways, and on top of that you say, here's one more way that I'll slice it down. And that's one part of it. The second and the more obvious is that because it introduces a new category, it will certainly go to the doorsteps of the judiciary.
that's an interesting
so how do you
point you raised.
expect that
Gopal
this is
Agarwal,
something
how
that
would
will
you
be rolled
respond to
out?
that?
Clearly something that's come at the last minute.
Now, when you are anytime talking of reservation, definitely there is a issue of what is the pie. Therefore, only you are talking of reservation. This is not a solution for employment. This is a problem of weaker sections of upliftment and empowering them. Otherwise, for employment generation, we have been doing with regard to skill development, with regard to entrepreneurship, with regard to self-employment, startup, stand-up. There are so many schemes, Mudra, Make in India, PSB 59. Then there are issues of Digital India. All those issues for economically strengthening, creating jobs, entrepreneurship, self-employment, everything is being done and tackled, whether it is demand creation through investment into infrastructures. These are two separate issues, and one policy cannot solve every problem. If when you are talking of reservation, it is how you, I agree that how you slice the pie is important. So this is a way of giving share to those who have been left out of that pie.
All right.
So this we
All
agree.
right,
But
Mr.
when you
Agarwal.
talk of timing, and you question the timing, then I will talk on the historical analytics of what is the legacy issues. So if you don't talk on timing, then we can talk on the concept that this is required legally, we will be able to do it. There are ample examples in Telangana, in Gujarat, in Maharashtra. If the opposition wants to challenge it into Supreme Court, once this is implemented,
Yes.
let them go.
All right,
Otherwise,
all right.
Supreme Court has no objection on
We
it.
heard you, Gopal
Economically
Agarwal.
weaker
Adil, I'll
sections of
just come
society.
to you in a bit
Can
for
Mr.
a quick response
Bupara-
on all the claims being made by Mr. Gopal Agarwal on behalf of his party. All right, so we're talking about the big announcement by the Modi government. We have with us Adil Singh Boparia, who's the Congress spokesperson, and Gopal Agarwal, the national spokesperson from the BJP, Manisha Priyam, political analyst as well. So Manisha, I don't know if you got a chance to hear Mr. Gopal Agarwal, but he had a response to all of your questions. Now, unlike the reservations for the SC, STs and OBCs, how different is this announcement and this quota bill from the others? I believe that caste is not going to be a criteria for eligible reservation.
No, they've said upper caste, economically backwards amongst the upper caste.
Okay.
So for once, the remainder category, what we have today is the defined lists for scheduled castes, we have the defined list for scheduled tribes, and we have the state-wise defined list for other backward castes. Now you will need to have another list for what are called the upper castes. So the upper caste as of now is really a residual category. Those who are not in these lists are the upper caste. So there can be a ideological understanding of the Savarnas, etc. But as far as legal scrutiny is concerned, you will need to now have a listing. And then on top of that, you will merge the economically backward criteria. Remember, even the economically backward criteria is something that will go to legal scrutiny and test. Because different states have different lists of economically backward castes. You have, for example, the below poverty line survey. So it's not as if the economic backwardness is easy to establish. That's something that this country has been struggling with. Many countries, for example, also require a certification of income by the talati or the tahsildar, etc. Now this government is saying land holding so much, house so much.
Yes.
Now all of this will therefore lead to a lot of struggle and scramble. So both the listing of the upper caste will need to be done, and the definition of economically backward will have to be established if this legislation has to go through. Now that hasn't gone through as yet. Both having been done, it will still be at the doorstep of the Supreme Court. It's extremely challenging because this bill, whatever my esteemed co-panelist has to say, if the intention of the government was to put this in place, these discussions should have happened. Timing is extremely critical. You can't today put it on the floor of the parliament and say that the intention as well as the legalities and technicalities have all been discussed in 1 hour flat or 1 day flat. This bill has not been in the discussion stage. We've learnt it yesterday through executive announcements. The cabinet has suddenly passed it, and there's a suddenness to it which has been characteristic of this government. And no suddenness is an excuse for saying that, you know, this is something that we can do. Yes, you have the power to do it as a sovereign, but in the deliberative procedure of democracy, you need to have things adequately discussed even on the floor of the parliament. That you haven't done as yet. So timing will be questioned.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Gopal Argopal, has all that homework been done? Because many see it as a hasty move. Has all the legalities been looked into? Has the government really, you know, sat down and talked to the other people who are going to be also supporting or not supporting this bill? That's the charge, that this has been done in a very hasty fashion. There has been no discussions, deliberations. Has all the work been done before this big announcement?
Definitely, when a bill is introduced in the cabinet, there is a proper mechanism through which all procedure through which everything passes. Agenda is prepared in the cabinet meeting. The draft is discussed. Various ministries will give their comment. It is passed through the legal process, whether it will be implementable. Otherwise, it cannot come as an agenda to the cabinet. All those processes have been there. But one thing I am very sure, that it is not in the public domain, because there are no leakages on these kind of things. The second important thing is, how do you put it in debate and public domain? Once the homework is done, the draft is ready, it is approved by the cabinet, then only it will, now it has been it will be put in the floor of the parliament. When the parliament is in session, you don't put it in the public domain first and then place it in the parliament. So that process is well within the legal framework of the governance. And now it will be in the public domain to discuss why it will be placed in the parliament. Everybody has a right to say whatever amendment they want, what changes they want, how it will be passed. The process has to be taken care of, and it will be taken care of.
But have you taken all stakeholders?
That we are a government which acts fast.
But have you taken everybody along? Because there is a lot of opposition from the Congress. How optimistic is the BJP that this bill will pass through?
No, we are sure that the opposition will support this, and if they oppose it, they should have to. They will have to tell to the people why they oppose it. What is the problem in this? They can question timing, whatever it is. But now, if it is put in the parliament, what is the harm in discussing and passing it? Why they want? If any bill is there in the parliament, they discuss for hours and hours. There is a limited time allotted to every bill. In that time will be allotted. They discuss, debate, and this issue is in the public domain for since a long time. It was implemented in Gujarat. It is in the Supreme Court. It has been discussed in various public debates everywhere that there is a question of this.
No, but the Congress say that this is because of the BJP's fear from an imminent defeat. They say that the BJP has all of a sudden woken up to the challenges and the difficulties and woes being faced by the economically poor. That is what they have to say.
No, whatever they say is not the. We are
but
not.
But many perceive it to be. Why has this come now, sir?
They can ask.
Your government has been in power now for 5 years. The elections are around the corner. Many perceive it to be an election sop. If
there is a decision, definitely it will have a political impact. And I told you that you have to go and see through all the effort that we have done for weaker section over 4.5 years. There is a time frame within which we are working. Definitely many things have to be squeezed on because we want to squeeze them in a period of 5 years, that first tenure that we have got. So many initiatives have been taken. Every effort has been questioned by Congress, whether it is GST, whether it is Jan Dhan account, whether it is the Swachh Bharat mission. Which government effort has been appreciated by Congress and opposition that we have done good? So everything is questioned, and then they don't say why they didn't do it. So they could have done. So the issue is very clear. We are talking to the people. We are not talking to the opposition on issues. They don't let the parliament function. They don't let any discussion take place in the parliament. Every issue to be discussed, we are agreeing that we will discuss them in parliament. Then they boycott it, disrupt it. Also, this kind of opposition we have, which is only destructing everything, no positive support. So what can be done for them? But as far as people are concerned, we have the discussion.
So let me get in our political analyst also, Manisha Prem. She's been patiently hearing you and listening. Manisha, how optimistic are you that this bill will see through the day, will be passed and will get the support, in fact, from everybody? It seems that this is likely to be introduced post-noon. That's the information that we're receiving right now. But what are your thoughts? What do you expect to happen in the next few hours?
So, the one thing, the intentions of the bill, the intentions of the government will be put on the floor of the House. If this session is coming to a close, tell me how long will the debate happen? Important issues are debated on the floor of the House. Unless I hear the various parties speaking on the floor of the House, how do I, at this point of time, a citizen looking at the Lok Sabha channel, understand what the various positions are? Remember, it's very important. The elected legislators are from various states. The issue of who's an upper caste or not is really something that is a very grounded issue. I need to understand the variety of views that various political parties have on the matter. Clearly, with 1 day to go and a whip being issued to members of parliament, the bill will likely be, if it has to be passed, will likely be put to a guillotine. The debate will be short, and that debate will not be as informative. It will be procedurally correct because you have the the majority on the floor of the parliament. So yes, procedurally correct, but the debate will be put to a guillotine if the intention of the government is to pass this. If the intention of the government is to introduce it and keep it alive for the next House that is elected in the summer of 2019, then clearly this has been something that's introduced at the very last moment. So in the best case scenario, the debates will not be full. In the worst case scenario, it will be a statement of intent. So, in both cases, even if I agree with my esteemed co-panelist from the BJP that, I would say that still timing is of the issue.
And on that note, Manisha, thank you so much for joining us. Gopal Agarwal, thank you so much for joining us as well. And thanks to our other two guests, Rahul Srivastava and Adil from the Congress Party. Well, with that, we're heading into a short break. That's a wrap of our discussion on the 10% quota, a big announcement by the Modi government.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you would love to.